Yeah.
Oh. Tell them in the email.
Molly just sent him a. Okay. No, he says. Maybe leave and come back in. Okay, so while Mel is trying to get some audio here, let me just, for the public, say who is online. We've got Kathy Robine, member of the Academic Committee, Mr. Mel Campbell, member of the Academic Committee, myself, Robin Cushenberry, our esteemed administrative assistant, and Molly Mercado, Wendy Cartledge, legal, Dr. Stratos, Chief Instructional Services Officer, and Dr. White, Director of Special Education. So, Mary, how would you like to start? Our purpose today is to review several, I'm sorry, guys, let's go back to, we need to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
There he is.
Oh, there's that great voice. Thank you, Mel. Any discussion? Nope.
No.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, unanimous. Thank you very much. Robin said that we do not have any public comment. So we're going to jump right into the review of the ARs. Dr. Stratos, do you want to start as IS 33?
If I could ask, if possible, we have Dr. White already joining us. If we could start with our Discipline of Students with Disabilities, SS 16. I do apologize that it's not in sequence, but we have personnel already joining us.
Oh, I think that is fine. We don't have any times on this, so I think we can do them a little interchangeably.
Thank you, appreciate it. And if I could just lightly bring attention to an item brought up last night in our board. I think I did not redirect us on the information that was presented by membership of ISD. It may not have been the updated version. So okay. I just wanted to draw attention to that matter. Although corrections have been made as per the layout and format as directed by our board chair.
And I'm supposed
to.
Okay. I just wanted to make note of that if possible.
Okay, great. And that will be brought forward to us next week, right?
Yes,
so that we can then bring
ma'am.
It and get it
Yes,
accepted as soon as possible. Okay.
I just think in the rush of a few things, there may have been a mix-up of some files, ma'am.
Got it. Yeah. That happens.
Yes, it does. We're all human. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Dr. Stratos, is Dr. White taking over or Ms. Cartledge?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. White has worked extensively with Wendy Cartledge. I have also been part of the reading and the rewriting of the
yes, ma'am.
ARIS 16. But I would like to have our Director of Special Education go forward because it is the voice of the children who basically this is Dr. White works first with our line of families. So Dr. White, if I could have you come in. Thank you, Mrs. Fridrich.
Good afternoon, board members. I wanted to review some of the changes. I know that you all have reviewed. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Just want to, I know that you all have reviewed this policy and had discussion in a previous academic committee meeting. There were some questions I was called in on one of them that we have clarified and cleared up and made clear. So I just wanted to point out the major maybe additions or revisions that you may not have seen before, and then answer any questions. If there's some prior stuff that you still need some clarification, just let me know as well. Okay. But I think that would be the better way to move forward. Is that okay with you?
Yes, that works. But Dr. White, I don't think Mr. Campbell was online when Ms. Cushenberry explained to us that this particular draft is not the same one that was in a couple of days ago. There were some updates. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. So, Mr. Campbell,
Correct.
I'm not sure when you reviewed this document, but this might look a little different to you. Okay.
I don't recall, but
okay.
I do have a question about the dates up there.
Sure. Go ahead.
You have September, and then you go November, July, December.
Yeah. So I think, and once Wendy can join it from a legal standpoint, I think when we first did this, these were the dates we started doing the revisions, and I think it was going to go to the academic committee because of the way we had it in edit mode. It was hard to delete all the dates, but it's December 2020 would be the revision.
Okay,
be
so
that
the other dates are not relevant. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, it's just in edit mode, and I had to get my amendment person to take those off when we get done, but that was the reason for that. Okay.
Right.
And so that goes to show all the different times that we've kind of looked at it and made some revisions, and we've really been doing a lot of work with it, started last year. Okay, so the first one is on the first page on the short-term suspensions. If you see, we've removed some of the language to put actually bullet 2. It will just say in-school suspension. And then the next one, bus suspensions, just making the headings very clear for those who are reading the policy, that you don't have to go through 5 or different words to get to what you're looking for. So I want it to be yes.
I so apologize. I just want to make sure that we received something in chat. I want to make sure that if anyone is trying to access this meeting, the county channel sent us a message that said it's on YouTube. Okay. So I just want anyone that might be trying to view this to know that.
Okay. All
My
right.
apologies.
No problems. So as far as the subheadings in the documents, trying to make it very clear and specific to what the section is addressing for those who may have to reference to the document as well. So section 2 would be in-school suspensions. And so we removed disciplinary sanctions of students with disabilities resulting, because the overarching admin reg is about discipline of students with disabilities. So I felt like we were being redundant, and you can lose sight of finding what you're looking for when it's not as easy to read and it's friendly enough format. Under section 4, short-term suspensions, we just wanted to be clear that prior to consideration of suspension, the school must have made that they really understand that they have to show documented interventions, and also what appropriate actions have they taken, and as well as conducting a functional behavior assessment and developing a behavior intervention plan, so that when we remove students or have to remove students, that we've done our due diligence to ensure that we're being proactive and maybe even taking them through and following the IEP individualized education plan as well. So just wanted to make that very clear, that that is a responsibility of the district for our students. Any questions about that? Moving to page 2. You'll see that entire section of red, and some of it is really just reorganization of the document for it to have a better flow in the sequencing of steps when we're talking about discipline or removals of students with disabilities. But some of the information that we added to make sure that all kids are given the right due process, given due process, is to make sure that the schools are conducting parent conferences prior to removing a student with disability, not requiring a parent conference for a kid to return to school. You can't, if you can't schedule a parent conference, we still have a right to make sure that that student has access to education. So making it clear that we cannot hold that and making it mandatory as well. Educational services must still continue to provide for a student who's removed as a student with a disability, and following along with Admin Reg SS 39, the student may be subject to short-term suspension. And in that, Dr. Stratus, make sure I'm clear about that too, is that with the students, they will be getting educational services anytime they are removed for suspension. We have to make sure all students get to students with disabilities, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Right.
Students have the right to continuum of their academic momentum,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes into the conversation of grading as per the district administrative regulation, in support of also what is tied into the student's IEP.
Exactly. So we wanted to make sure that that was very clear, that they will always have access to their academic work. Also, determination of the appropriate general education That's a typo there. We'll change that. Special education related services are provided to students suspended for more than 10 cumulative days. So if they go past 10th day, on the 11th day, we have to ensure that they're still getting their services as well. So wanted to make sure we're clear about that. Any questions?
Dr. White, and I do apologize. I think it's just some formatting items.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so on page 2, and I know I don't want to get into crazy detail right now, but if we look at Alpha D, is the next is that next paragraph within Alpha D?
No, that is part of Alpha D, and we had some discussion about indenting that or moving it up, and we will fix that.
Yeah, we'll fix all of those.
Yeah, that is part of it, of Alpha D.
And we'll put 10 days too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
And so recognizing that if I look at the cumulative short-term suspension titled, that should be technically then Alpha C. So it is correct. All right, got it.
Yes, that's Alpha C.
Thank you.
All right. And so cumulative short-term suspensions exceeding 10 days. So they're on the IDA, there are specific things we have to do if it's less than 10 days and those exceeding 10 days. So we wanted to be clear about what the processes and procedures are for school teams, both IEP and 504. Students on the section 504 must be as well. So making sure that they get that functional behavior assessment and implementing a behavior intervention plan that we need to ensure is happening as we work with students, because it's all about being proactive, not just removing students, but making sure we're doing those things to minimize the removals when possible. If you'll follow me to page 3, to the next page.
Can we just, 1 second? I'm rereading under cumulative short-term suspension exceeding 10 days. I'm looking at 1A.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to, I don't know about anybody else, but my brain is a bit foggy today. Anybody else's?
Yes.
After last night. So it says conduct a functional behavior assessment. Okay. Is that a heading?
So that is a heading, yes.
Okay, so then the IEP 504 team must either before or no later than 10 school days in a school year, or commencing a removal that constitutes a change of placement. Got it. Never mind. Okay, that's one long sentence, but I got it.
Yeah.
Maybe a comma there after placement, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Wendy, because most people aren't going to know when Mrs. Friedrich knows with regard to special education, Dr. White or the committee membership.
Yeah.
We have to indent that 1 and 2. Yeah. Okay.
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 Yes.
Yeah, they'd actually be, if it's 1A, I mean, they'd be like,
a little one.
Little I, little two
Little I.
eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll do that.
Okay.
Got that. Okay.
All right. Sorry about that. Then moving to page 3. This was a little bit redundant of what we stated in simpler terms prior to that. So that whole section is deleted, but also will be addressed further down in the document just for the ease and flow of it when we're talking about implementing, assessing behavior and implementing a BIP. So you'll see that occurring in a few minutes, okay? So actually in number 2, if you turn to the following page, it says duty to determine is really determine whether cumulative suspensions or a change of placement. No major changes there as well. It is what you all have seen, but really making sure they understand what constitutes a change of placement over cumulative. So if a kid is constantly being removed for a certain number of time or a certain number of days, even though it may be short, those can all add up to say, hey, we've just changed this kid's placement to a more restricted setting. So just making sure that we outline what those are as well. And the following page, thank you, Robin. No significant changes other than if you scroll to the bottom, We just, again, added back in, it's really important that we make sure we do a functional behavior analysis assessment, have the behavioral interventions documented, and any things that we have done to address the behavior so that that behavior does not recur. So I wanted to emphasize that and address that again in that section as well.
Because we focus on interventions now.
Yes, and that's the whole thing, being proactive as well.
It supports our student code of conduct.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does. Cindy.
On the following page, the other major addition was really about making sure that we have taken all reasonable steps to ensure that parents participate in the removals and in the meetings of their students, and that if they can't attend, that we give them alternate methods of attending, but making sure that we keep that parental component in there, and that we're doing everything we can to ensure that that's done, and that we need to inform them of their procedural safeguard, of their due process rights at the time that we notify them of the infraction by providing them with that procedural safeguards handbook. I'll pause now for any questions or comments. Okay. Right. Section 5, if you notice, we just added removal for drugs, weapons, and serious bodily harm, because this section really specifically addressed those three things, because there are some stark differences for removals when it comes to drugs, weapons, and serious bodily harm. So we wanted to make sure that that was clear.
And Dr. White, like you said, as we talked, and committee members, under the IDEA, the correct term is serious bodily harm, not violent behavior. So that's corrected now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, make my lights go out when I'm not moving, so.
No.
I forget.
Thank you, Dr. White.
I can see the screen, but I can't see the writing. So if you see me move away, that's what I'm doing, getting my lights back on. On that, we were very clear, and we made we did a better job of defining weapons, drugs, and drug offenses, and when they happen, what constitutes a weapon, and also we define what serious bodily injury is defined as on the IDEA, and it's pretty much almost loss of life and dismemberment before you could really use this. But we wanted to make sure people understood the definitions of these. Just drawing blood doesn't necessarily mean that on the IDEA is serious bodily injury. So wanted to be very clear and define those under that section as well.
And that due process is provided.
Correct. And it just goes on to talk about manifestation determination. And we know that with a student with disabilities, we have to determine, is the behavior or the conduct in question a direct result of that child's disability or failure as a district to provide a free, appropriate public education or implement the IEP as written as well. So when we do that, we then look at the impact of that manifestation determination meeting. Review on what comes out of that as well. Probably you can move to the next page.
I have a question.
Sure.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Go ahead.
In the number 2, in the definition of serious bodily injury, in the third line down, it says, or protracted loss or impairment of the function of a bodily member. What's a bodily member?
So bodily member is like your arm, a limb, and this was taken directly from the regulation.
IDEA.
So they're calling a piece of your body, they're using the word member. Oh, okay.
I know, it's strange, isn't it?
Yeah, that's I kind of thought maybe that was it, but I'm like, oh, I would never use that term there.
No,
I think that's where dismembered comes from.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Is it possible to note the IAES to write it out prior to the acronym?
We did that.
Yeah. All right.
I think, we've
I
done
was
that.
trying to find it written out.
Hold on.
I think I wrote it out earlier, but I'll double check because we
You
made a
did,
point.
Dr. White. We talked about that this morning.
We made a point of going back to do it.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
we find where it is.
Yeah, we just read it a second ago.
But we did remember that. I'm just making myself a note to check that again.
Yeah, I'm doing this.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Wait a second. I want to tell you.
I have a question about
Go
letter
ahead.
E. impact of manifestation determination.
Yes.
Going down to letter A,
Yes.
provide the student's parents. It just came to me. Are we strictly keeping parents in there? Are we saying and legal guardians? Or are we?
Oh, we missed that, Ms. Fidrich. We got to have parent, legal guardian.
And legal guardians.
Yeah.
Yep.
Me.
That's
we've been
right.
Yeah, so that's one area that we missed it. And I'll go back after we get done and make sure those two, that and the use of the principal administrator to make sure we're consistent.
Yeah, we try to be consistent.
Yeah. Then move into the next page.
And just a second, Dr. White, it is at the top of the page. It says we did define interim alternative placement. We do have it in there. So anyway, go ahead. You got it.
Okay,
I'll show you where it is. Yeah.
that's fine. Just want to make sure we did it the first
Yeah, we
time.
did. Okay, I'll show you where it is. Yeah. Thanks. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. On the next page, when we talked about misconduct as a manifestation, no significant changes. We did delete a lot of the language towards the bottom. When we talk about interim alternative educational setting, the IAES, to really make sure that it is simple and we can understand, making it very easy for us to read and follow. And the things
White,
that.
I have a question about letter C.
Sure.
Underneath 2C. So this is more of a philosophical thing, and it might not be worthwhile. But when I read letter C, it says the IEP 504 team should immediately consider appropriate ways to manage the student's behavior. You know, that's not giving the child any agency. It's not giving the ways that the child might manage his or her behavior. And I'm just wondering if that's not a distinction that we should try to strive toward that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so one or two things, right? So this is coming directly from what IDA says. And then I interpret that when we talk about appropriate ways to manage the student's behavior, I'm under the assumption that in that plan, there will be some agency, there will be some responsibilities of the student too, because you have to behave and you have to take ownership, or these are the consequences or that you do. So that's how I looked at it. But I could be, we can make it a little bit clear, but when you're talking about coming up with a plan to manage that behavior, part of it has to be, what is the student going to do as well? That's how I look at it holistically.
Right.
But,
and yeah, I agree. I was hoping that you were looking at it that way, because I think the more agency we can allow students to manage their own behavior, the better. So, okay.
Yeah, and that's what we've been doing a lot. We've been doing some training or a couple of IEP meetings with the behavior intervention plans, really looking at that and working with the administrators. And they just received a complete recording that talked about some of those things too, where kids are involved and having agency as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
that's also part of the FBA and the BIP, part
Correct.
of the agency.
Yeah. I was telling you the strike through is because we were being redundant in the definitions of serious bodily injury and stuff that we had made prior to, so there was no need to repeat it at this point in the document.
Do you have it here?
Again, as far as the interim alternative educational setting goes, these are the two areas that they have to make sure that we follow, and that's to wherever the child goes and removed to, we have to make sure that they still continue to have access and make progress in the general education curriculum, and that's towards promotion and or graduation as well. And then again, Ms. Frederick, this is where it would come in, include services and modifications to address the behavior, but also making sure in that behavior plan too that the kid has some ownership too of what he has to do.
Okay.
One of the things we needed to be very clear on is making sure that we continue to provide a free, appropriate public education for students who are expelled. So we talked a lot about students who have been removed because of suspensions, but then we still have an obligation under IDA for those who have been expelled So making sure that we were very clear that unlike a typical student or a student who does not have a disability, that these still, regardless of the setting and where they go, we still have to continue to provide services, and that they still have to make progress towards in the general education curriculum to include promotion and or graduation as well. And that we need to continue to carry them in our power school system as well, unless they withdraw and go to another school district. And we still have to provide the appropriate FAPE to those students as well. The reason the incident manager, we have to code those students as expelled with services, because unlike other students, general education students who are removed, we have to provide services. And this is very important, and Dr. Stratus has been working, we've been working on making sure that Power School clerks have been coding correctly, because we do have to report this data to the State Department every summer, hence why we have the, remember we talked about disproportionality of students being removed with disabilities. It's coming from this data that we report. So it's important that our coding is correct, and that expelled students are provided services as well.
So Dr. White, if we go back up to Power School, letter A, the sentence that says the student will be coded with the appropriate EFA code, but only if he or she receives the requisite number of instructional hours. So, I'm not questioning it as much as I don't understand that. So what do you mean if they receive the hours? I thought they had to receive the hours.
They had to receive the hours, but if for some reason a school did not, then we could not code them with that code.
But if a school did not, they would be
Compulsory.
They will be expelled without services. Mm-hmm. And we can use that code. And this was coming straight from the State Department.
But I know, but this is the guidance that our APs are going to use and our principals are going to use. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little confused as to what that means. And it's around the word if. So so again, it's just my ignorance. I can put. I see what you're saying, and that was going straight from the language of the state, but I see where it's confusing. So we can say the student will be coded with a appropriate EFA code, so long
provided she receives a record.
Or not put it at all if we're going to set the precedence in our district that they will get those hours, right?
That's kind of my point. I mean, I thought, are we not mandated to provide services?
We are, and I think where it comes into place, and then Dr. Stratus will chime in, is that if for some reason a student did, even though we know we're mandated and we have to do it, but someone did not do it, we can't code them as using that code because we didn't do it. And this is if the person didn't do what they were supposed to do.
They didn't complete their assignments.
The teacher didn't know, the school didn't provide the services.
But when you're talking, one thing is codification. I think the other is a philosophical point that with an expulsion does not supersede an IEP.
No.
By being expelled, it doesn't remove the district's obligation to provide Mary services.
That's right.
So so that's kind of where it gets misty there.
And again, I'm looking at this as if someone's using this as their guiding light to how to handle. It just might be confusing. Like, do I have to give the numbers, or is it, if she receives the requisite number of instructional hours? So anyway, I think that's confusing there.
Okay.
We need to work on that, yes.
Kathy?
Yeah, what happens if our students are incarcerated?
If they're incarcerated, if they're incarcerated in the county jail, in our county, we are responsible to go into the jail and provide the services.
Okay.
If they've gone to DJJs consider their own LEA, they ask for our records and they continue to provide services until they come.
And then in Power School, that would be reflected.
And that will be reflective. So if they go up, yes.
Yes, okay.
But recognize if I'm incarcerated in the county jail, the child has to declare a request for services or the parent. the local municipality is not going to take on the agency for us. They're not going to do that kindly and contact us. I'll put it lightly.
Right. But even if they don't and that's where if they don't contact us, we still have to go, we still have responsible.
Usually we find out from the other kids.
Yes.
The other kids tell us they're where they are, right?
Yeah.
Well, you have things in place to locate the child anyway if he's not in school period.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
On the third and fifth day, social workers are notified to follow up on children.
Okay, so let's go back so we can be clear and we can bring some finality to this. The student will be coded. Tell me how we want to proceed with this, and I'm fine either way. I was just using the language that came straight from the State Department.
Dr. White, you are the expert in this. And to me, I just hesitated at the word if, as if it gives people, gives a school the option to.
I got you.
That was my concern. And that's how I read it. And so I don't know if you can change the wording if it comes directly from IDEA, but I think since these are our administrative regulations, it may be some clarification.
So this one was not from IDEA. This is just the guidance from the state, so I can change. I can modify that. Okay. I think I'm going to work on saying something about. I'll fix it.
Dr. White, how about upon completion of the requisite number of hours? I mean,
well, you don't wait till the end. I mean, because we go ahead and put them in there.
We'll have to work on this. Okay.
No, I can say, yeah. I'll fix it, and then I'll send that statement back to you all. I just have to process.
Well, again, Dr. Stratos, as a former administrator, does this give you any pause? If not, then I, will go with your expertise, Dr. White. But does this give you any pause, Dr. Stratos?
Mrs. Friedrich, it does, only because of the lens I'm trying to get us to understand that we need to write and provide in order that the customer, either who's ever our administrators, can understand it to the level that I'm at. So as I read it legally, I understand what it means because of experience, but the customer may not have the same experience as I do.
Right, and that's the lens that I'm trying to look at all these ARs.
Yes, ma'am. Myself included.
Okay.
So if we could, but only, I think there has to be something that denotes either change of IEP requirements, so that people understand really what that means.
Right.
Yeah, because the but if makes it sound like it's an option.
Exactly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. If and or, yes.
Right.
Transitional language.
Yep. And I think
unless he or she does not.
Unless he or she, I think it would be his or her IEP no longer requires services. Is that more to the context that we're trying to say?
No, because, say that again, Dr. Stratos.
Unless his or hers individual educational plan no longer requires services.
Got you.
In other words, we're telling you at the school site, you either readdress an IEP or you follow the IEP even with an expulsion.
That's good.
Okay?
Yeah, got it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No longer requires. Okay.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments before we move on?
No. Dr. Stratos?
Yeah, incident management.
Mm-hmm.
The students will remain coded as expelled with services. So that would be incident-based placement. I'm just trying to. So
in Power School, you have the Power School, and then you have the incident management system for the discipline part, and so making sure that it's there as well.
So that's
Educator handbook.
This is in Power School.
Yes.
Power School. Okay.
Yeah. So it's still part of the codification that she applies for our student information system. But I
Right.
just so we could just clarify that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm. One of the other things too we wanted to make clear is that if a student does not have a disability, but the parent says that they may be or they were in the process of being referred or the MTSS system, that we have to make sure that we kind of treat them somewhat like a student with a disability because we had knowledge that they may be as well. And I'm not sure that we, just making sure that people understand that. So a lot of students who may be in MTSS or came back and we got a referral for, say, ADHD and wanted to look at an IEP for that, we then have to treat them as such because of the suspected disability until we complete the evaluation process and either determine they do have a disability or do not on the IDEA.
Dr. White, thank you for catching and putting that in because that is a critical weasel clause.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
Dr. White,
Yes.
in that long sentence as well, the fourth line, so it says, if BCSD had knowledge of the child's disability,
Mhm.
should we say suspected disability or?
Yes.
I mean, because this
Yes,
is all
that's
about
good.
someone, I mean, this child's not been identified yet, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it. Mhm.
Prior to that incident. Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry about that.
And then
so
the last,
again,
mhm.
later
Go
on,
ahead.
knowledge of the suspected
The
disability.
disability.
That sounds
Right.
good.
Yes.
That sounds really good.
Got it.
Excuse me, just procedural. Would the person that just joined our meeting on the iPhone, please just let everybody know who you are so we know who's at the meeting?
William Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
You're welcome.
Okay,
All right.
Dr. White?
All right, and then on the second to final page, we needed to make something in there about referral to law enforcement to make sure that schools understand that just because an incident's been referred to law enforcement doesn't mean that we don't continue our due process and our due diligence to investigate and also continue on the IDEA as well.
And under the legal references, we added the Code of Federal Regulations,
Mhm.
Safe Schools Climate Act, and the Special Education Process Guide for South Carolina.
And
by
for
SCDE.
right, and for parents to understand that just because there's a student with a disability doesn't mean that we cannot refer to law enforcement. Making
Okay.
sure that that's very clear
Right.
as well. And those are all the significant changes that are in there from the last time you saw this. I just wanted to share those with you.
Okay,
That's
and it
right.
might
Thank
be
you so much.
it might be important at the bottom there that the date is the same as that at the top. This says
Yes, it will
November.
be.
Oh,
It'll be
yeah,
December.
I missed that, Ms.
That's
Fisher.
okay.
Sorry about that. I'll get
So-
that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we're looking at now taking out looking at a clean copy and then going back through that again for some more, typos, errors, formatting to make sure it's
Sure.
what it should be. I have
Yeah.
a hard time with all the markups now to see that. So I've already printed a clean copy to work on to make sure.
Yes, and we think it'll be helpful to the board when we present this, which I guess it will be at the second January board meeting since the swearing in of the new members takes place in the first meeting. And then we're going to have a copy with, a draft copy like this as well as a clean copy because it's easier to read because as Dr. White said, it's hard to understand this with all the changes with the, A, B, C,
Sure.
D and all. It's hard to get it. So,
Right.
So
I
we'll
think
do
it's
that.
the clean copy that should go to the board in
Yeah.
January. It's the
Okay.
final product.
okay. But we didn't know if we, in the past, some of the board members wanted to look at the old draft and see how we changed it. So I just want to do whatever the board wants. We're happy either way.
Would the
Well-
old draft still be alive in board docs up until this gets approved and changed?
This will remain in board docs, so if they want to see, they can go back and look
Sure.
at any time.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher.
Mary.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. White.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Dr. White,
Good job.
thank you.
All right. Thank you. Y'all have a good rest of the day.
You also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all come back now.
Okay, what's the next one you want to look at, Dr. Stratos?
So may we go to adult community education, IS 33? I'm just pulling what's on the top of my list in front
Yes.
of myself. Are we good with that, please?
Yes.
Wendy, I think you handle the
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. And board members and Dr. Strauss, I need to change the date from July when this first started to December. And the main point of revising this was because under our student code of conduct, a student may be referred to adult ed as an alternative disciplinary action for violation of the BCSD Administrative Rule SS 18 Student Code of Conduct. So that just needed to be updated as well as the date. So we'll take care of that.
Any questions from anyone about this one?
Nope.
Okay. Dr. Stratos, I had a question about this.
Yes, ma'am.
Roman numeral 6, graduation.
Mm-hmm.
No student may graduate from the adult ed program prior to the time she normally would have graduated had she remained in high school. Why, if a student, okay, you know where I'm going.
I know where you're going. It's state guideline. So they look at adult education not as an accelerating model.
Okay.
They'd like the state guideline only because I've spent hours today with state guidelines and regs. Comprehensive school setting is a primary setting for students to graduate from. Adult education is not to be looked at as an accelerated model, but there's a hypocrisy at practice just to understand that with utilization of a proficiency model, there's hypocrisy at practice, and I'll leave it there.
Okay.
But we can graduate from adult education. That is permitted.
I know. It just seems to me that if you do have, students that do partake in adult ed might do so because they are so accelerated that they are not feeling challenged or whatever might be in the regular high school. And therefore, it seems like they maybe should be able to graduate early, like other students can from high school.
So here's an interesting point. Mrs. Cartledge and myself were using this language on IS 60 that hasn't still been refined, that we're trying to leverage the language of proficiency waivers because that is also under the state legislation.
Okay.
With regard to high school graduation units and Carnegie units. We could look, I don't know how much Dr. Morell permits proficiency to demonstrate mastery to CLEP a class. That, if you understand what I'm trying to say, because that's basically what it means with the utilization of edgenuity.
Yes, it does. I mean, why should, let me back up. First of all, to CLEP a class, what does that mean in high school language?
So in high school language, that means if I have an exam that demonstrates mastery, I'll use myself as an example. My last year of high school, I CLEP'd the majority of my classes. I demonstrated mastery by sitting for a test.
Right.
Now that's either that they paid me. No, I'm just playing.
I know.
But I
don't know the term CLEP. I don't know that term CLEP.
I think that's that's a northern term. So I was able to sit for an exam.
Okay.
And I CLEP'd to get my credit in order to, I basically only attended for half a credit for school.
Okay.
I sat for exams and I CLEP'd out. I demonstrated mastery. It's the same language of saying demonstrating proficiency by taking an exam.
Right.
Right. The state guidelines that we have demonstrated mastery at these standards in high school required courses. And how do we define mastery? We as a district with our high school principals, they have agreed that mastery is at a 75th percentile. Madeline Hunter defines it at the 85th percentile. And there are some who just utilize 80. So but that could be some type of language we could massage, but we don't have the system in place. So we would be putting it into an AR to drive the procedural practice of adult ed without giving them the opportunity of getting that operationalized.
So did you say that it's Dr. Morell's decision to?
Well, we could work with Dr. Morell at adult ed because this is basically where this kind of falls under.
Right.
Say, Dr. Morrell, can you operationalize the idea of proficiency waivers with students? And will we still be compliant with adult ed? So,
Kathy and Mel, what do you guys think?
How would that comply with the regulation of graduating on time or
that's
prior to the time?
That's why I started to say that there's redundancy at, you have this that's allowed, being a proficiency, but they also say that we can't utilize adult ed for acceleration. That's why I would have to ask Dr. Morrell to do a little legwork to see if we could use the proficiency model at adult education.
So when we use
when this acceleration, excuse me, Kathy.
No,
when
go
this
ahead, Mel.
acceleration, are they talking acceleration of time or acceleration of study? I mean, I think you're talking time, right?
I'm speaking time, that I should graduate nothing sooner than my cohort.
Three and three quarters year or 3.5 year?
Yes, than my cohort of my freshman year.
Right.
But we allow early graduation.
Right.
At senior year.
Right.
So I
think you have to conform with district standards.
Yes.
Of what's conformity there. So, and you're saying we can redirect some of that.
That is to me, that is the gray area that I think we can. Yes. Wendy?
Agree.
Okay.
Kathy?
So when we use proficiency waivers, then the seat time element is not a requirement. Is that correct? The state requires
yes.
The state requires seat time.
Yes, and so you have two forms right now, proficiency waivers that exist. One is as a result of CARES Act. The other is also as a result of us as a district have submitted, actually right before COVID, waivers for this academic school year that were approved. We put in for proficiency waivers. We put in almost every year for it.
Okay.
I'm just rereading this a second, so I need a moment. I do apologize to try to get our language.
Yeah.
I have a question too.
Yes, Mr. Smith?
Well, I agree with Mr. Campbell. I think that we need to, as a district, I'm looking for us to get more uniformed in at the district level versus the school level. Mm-hmm. Because as I stated last night, I think that we are allowing the administrators of the district at the school level to make too many decisions on that level. And I think that I'm looking for the district to step it up and stop making uniform decisions. And so I think this decision should be taking place at the district level.
And Mr. Smith, thank you so much, Mr. Smith, for saying that. And that was one of the objectives with the student code of conduct, is to have that discipline matrix, because the district wanted to ensure that district discipline is enforced consistently throughout all of our schools, because we want everybody to be treated equally and fairly and the same. So you're right. So thank you.
So I think that's why we're having this conversation, because after reading this AR, at least it came to my mind that why would we hold back our students that are seeking their GED, which oftentimes they're doing it while they're holding down a job or whatever it might be. It would seem to me that we should be proactive in enabling these kids to get their GED and not just forcing them to slow it down if we don't have to.
But the GED is separate than a traditional high school diploma. Am I correct or no? That the GED I would test to obtain my GED versus attending adult education for credit-bearing classes.
Got it. My mistake. Yeah.
No. But so, Mrs. Friedrich, on graduation, what do we think? And I need to close the sentence, but you have graduation. I would say high school students attending adult education for graduation purposes are subject to all administrative regulations of all Beaufort County, BCSD administrative regulations and educational regulations. with that, under our graduation and grading policy, I believe we have addressed proficiency, and we could cross-check that. So with that, that child would be subject to things and early graduation. Does that make?
It makes sense. And I think philosophically, that is something that we would like to have happen in the district. Kathy and Mel?
Yes.
Yeah, but you know, the board has to approve who goes into adult education.
Yes.
And when that comes before us, and if it's somebody like a 16-year-old, and it isn't, somebody who's earlier in their high school career, most of them that come before us are 18-year-olds, and they're, not making progress in high school, but their ages. So it seems to me those 18-year-olds are not going to be in there. They're not going to be graduating early because they're already behind. But it's that 16-year-old that may be being recommended to go to adult ed for some reason, that, there needs, that could possibly graduate earlier, right?
Yes. So I think if we looked at high school students attending adult education for graduation, or for the purpose of graduation, shall be subject to all BCSD ARs, administrative regulations, which now gives them the opportunity to, if Dr. Morell feels that we could do early graduation and provide for acceleration, it kind of gives us a weasel clause, and treating our children the same way, not creating a specialized class.
And just real quick, our board members and Dr. Stardust, I looked up the State Board of Education regulation 43259, and it talks about eligibility requirements. To be eligible for a state high school equivalency diploma, the candidate must be 17 years of age or older.
Mm-hmm.
It must be the resident of South Carolina or former resident. State board will issue a state high school equivalency diploma to eligible candidates, who successfully complete an SBE approved high school equivalency test.
So when do we add to that, the end of that sentence, and state regulations? So that now to that child, you have the advantages of our ARs, as long as we are governed, we follow these state regulations.
I think that's the intent that I would like to see us go into.
I don't like holding children back.
No,
me neither.
I'm not a big supporter of that. That's power. It's not allowing the child to grow.
Right. So, Mary, I don't know Dr. Morell. So can you explain your comment a little bit more? It's more of a procedural thing. If they have the ability to offer that, can you restate?
So I have to reach out to Dr. Morell to say, so Dr. Morell, how many classes could I sit for graduation purposes? Do we allow a child to take numerous amount of classes in Edgenuity?
Right.
In order that I can have the opportunity to excel? And are you forced, am I having to take the full 32 as if I was in a comprehensive school setting? Or are we focused directly just on the 24 credits necessary for graduation?
And then here,
help me excel as well.
Yeah, it says here, each approved adult ed high school diploma course shall include a minimum of 60 hours of instruction for each unit of credit, exclusive of registration, exams, issue materials, etc., unless the course is offered via the virtual school program or via an approved proficiency-based system.
Okay.
Okay.
Kathy, Mel, William, do you want to add anything else to this?
No.
I mean, still hadn't addressed the credits, like that's what Dr. Straddles just alluded to, credits versus, our graduation regulations. But 24 units would seem reasonable, and how they get those 24 units would be specialized for those adult ed students. And the other end of that is how we, well, I don't know how we do it, or adopt adult ed students, and what's the purpose behind adopting the adult ed student? You know, if they're 16 and whatever the circumstances might lead a 16-year-old to be adopted to adult ed, we make that adoption as board members. That always brought to us. Our value system should be, if this child is being recommended for adult ed, then we need to assure that this child is getting the minimum GED or the diploma, which is most optimum for that child.
Right.
So, and that's, we got to have that in place somehow, with or without state guidelines, but I mean, within state guidelines, of course. That's what we're saying, that I'm for it all the way.
I think what I'm hearing, what I'm advocating for, which is why I brought up about this graduation, is do we have multiple avenues to help these kids get their high school diplomas? You know, are we looking at them as individuals and saying, right, what does this child need? Okay. Exactly. And let's help this child get this high school diploma, which we all know you have to have for future success.
Yeah.
So
24 hours.
That's what Mary, that's the general, the gist of it.
Mm-hmm. I do hear. I mean, we're basically singing similar songs.
Okay.
Because it is about getting our children to graduate high school and have an opportunity for something else.
Right.
And it's not cookie cutter. But that's why it's not now, you know, that's why at high school we have choice programs. You know, it's not cookie cutter, you know.
Right.
Speaking of which, Mary, the last number there, number 7, community education. What does that mean?
I really can't speak to that in the sense. I'll be direct with you, Mr. Campbell. I did not originate this document. I read it and reviewed it.
And it's actually been in there. It's been in there since.
That's why
he's
rhetorical question.
Yes.
Not exactly. I expect an answer.
Right.
But if we've got it in there, then going forward, from what I've read, community groups can encourage support from the district in terms of educating and facilitating certain community needs educationally.
Yes. And creating models that provide for re-engineering of the workforce.
Right. Things like that. Exactly.
Yes, Mr. Campbell.
Having it in there makes us kind of obligated to do more if it's encouraged.
That is the key point that I need. I've informally had 2 conversations with community membership here and on the north side. I'd like to see something happening in the south side, extending it. We have extended adult education during our tenure now to Bluffton area, at Bluffton Middle at night and during the afternoon, which we didn't have that before. We need to tap on a little more. Yes.
Right.
It says it has to be totally self-supporting. So it's, to me, it would be interesting to see when this was added and why, if there was some, you know, group that they thought, oh, we want to promote aviation. So we see a need for that in our community for jobs. So let's, you know, use the school buildings or something. I don't know, but that to me, it says it's not costing the school district anything. It has to be totally self-supporting. So very curious as to.
I don't read it like that, Kathy.
You don't?
That it has to be totally self-supporting.
That's what it says.
Yeah, so if I could help with that.
Yeah.
I wanted.
1 second,
I want
Mr.
to jump
Smith.
in.
Just
That's what I was going to say when she gets in, I want to jump in there.
Yeah, 1 second, Dr. Stratos.
And my prior tenure as a high school principal, we maintained adult education and community education. Adult education that was utilized for language acquisition for adults, GED, okay? And basically those were the two core practices of adult ed. The community education was my Microsoft Office, right? We provided accounting. They technically was almost like a lease for service, where they came, they utilized our classroom, they were self-sufficient. You paid as a person in the community to take that class, right? And then those classes were available. I think this is more the context of language, where we're taking it more into the community of people and providing an adult education model more for the community and having that voice in it. But this is more the community education model of adult education that's beyond the state allowment of GEDs and high school credit and ESOL classes that we receive funding for. And that's funded by completers within a timely time period.
It would be interesting to know what kind of history we have with that. I'm just curious.
I am surprised that we do not have a large community education model that operates out of our high schools.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Smith, you wanted to say something?
And that's what I was trying. That's what I'm trying to speak to. I do remember a point where we had adult education over at Penn Center in the afternoons in my community, as well as St. Helena Elementary School. Mm-hmm. We had a night adult education program, and so that is where the outlets was used. I believe that sentence or that phrase may have came from, because I remember as a kid, the older adults would come in at a certain period of time and they would do the adult education program. And I remember at Penn Center, they would do the adult education program. So I believe that is the community involvement, and they were ran fully by those centers, by staff at St. Helena. And then also it was staffed by the Penn Center. And I believe some of them also was helped by the librarians as well.
Oh, very interesting. Thank you for that, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
That
Smith.
would make sense.
Yeah.
So that's, so why is it in here again then? We think it's important to leave this in here?
Well, it's been the past practice in the district, so we need to look into, Dr. Stratus and I need to find out how this was implemented in the past. It was part of it, but I do want to mention something to you all. So in this administrative reg talks about an adult education program, 43-237.1. But I'm just digging around in here in the regs, and I see a reg here, 43-259, and this says, and we need to find out about this, no student shall be graduated from the adult education program prior to the time that he or she would have graduated from a regular high school, unless, can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Unless written approval is granted by the high school principal and the SCDE's Office of Adult Ed. And then it goes on to talk about, to be eligible to receive a state high school diploma, he or she must complete 1 semester in residence through actual attendance to the adult ed program, and that this semester in residence is a prerequisite for the state high school diploma and may not be waived. Then it just says, for the purpose of adult education programs, a semester in residence is defined as follows: a minimum of 60 hours of classroom attendance for a semester needing only 1 unit to graduate, a minimum of 30 hours of classroom attendance for a student who needs only 1/2 unit to graduate. So completion of a 1/2 unit or 1 unit via the virtual school program while enrolled in an adult ed program will satisfy the semester in residence requirement. So we'll need to check with the SCD's Office of Adult Ed. You know, you were saying, Ms. Fitter, it's like somebody might need to, graduate a little early because they need to go to work,
Right.
Technically, under that language, Wendy, if you go back to the fact that I am a senior, I have the option to graduate early for a semester. If I'm a senior going into adult ed, and I need to graduate earlier, whatever the purpose is, just even notice that a credit requirement at adult ed is 60 hours versus 125
Yeah.
in a traditional, high school setting. We're just saying that the principal has to approve it, right?
And the SCDE Office of Adult Ed has to approve it.
Yes. So it would be pending for both of them. You think they're going to say no, but kid has all the credits? I'm just
no.
All right. So let me ask you, just for time's sake, should we? Is there more that you want to add to this?
I think we need to have a conversation with Dr.
I agree.
a little deeper.
Yes.
Before we go ahead, because we're modifying language that I strongly believe that she should have, insight to.
Yeah,
I agree.
And also, the community education is referenced on here as section 594410. So I think I will read up on that in South Carolina code just to give myself some more background.
And it's interesting, Mrs. Robine, under adult ed, I was reading today, you'll find language on young adult. I didn't get the time yet to get deep into that language.
I wanted to ask a question too.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Smith?
I was going to say, do we think that it would be good for Miss Morale at the next conversation that we have about this in reference to adult ed?
Absolutely. So when Dr. Stratos and her team and Wendy and they kind of have some more discussion about this and rewrite or whatever they do, I agree that when we are discussing it in committee, that Dr. Morrell should join us.
Yeah, and just real quickly, board members, Ms. Robine, I hope this will be helpful to you all. This is short. So Chapter 44 Community Ed says General Assembly recognize that the school as a prime educational institution of the community is most effective when it involves the people of that community in a process designed to fulfill their educational needs. And since community education promotes a more efficient use of community facilities, an extension of buildings, personnel, and equipment, it is the purpose of this chapter to facilitate the provision of recreational, educational, cultural, social health, and other community services. And this is pretty nice. And it says here that the Board of Trustees of each school district of the state is hereby authorized, but not obligated to, coordinate a community education program in its district.
We don't have that defined because it is also a fiscal a means of obtaining. I have to check the finance code. In two other states that I'm familiar with, our community education course fees. Once you pay back to the district the lease, that is a requirement for the instructor. That money is discretionary for the school that houses it.
And it says SCDE shall promote implementation and operation of community education programs.
I think, as Mr. Smith mentioned earlier, what used to be offered, this is a fabulous opportunity for us to delve into. But all right, so we are going to then, you guys are going to work on IS 33.
And get this, Dr. Morrell, and we appreciate y'all's input. This is very helpful.
Mrs. Bartlett, we have to have Dr. Campbell because adult education falls directly under Dr. Campbell.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So we're going to make this better.
And also have Dr. Morale too. I think having Dr. Morale at the next meeting would be it would be helpful as well.
Yeah, I put Dr. Morale on there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, very good. Thanks, everybody. All right, the next one.
Which one is next, Dr.?
Foreign exchange.
Foreign exchange.
Okay, so this one is easy. This will not be hard for us. So we had originally done a lot of work to be in compliance with the J-1 visa, the exchange visitor program, the U.S. Department of State. And what happened was after this administrative reg went into effect in August, at the end of July, we learned that the State Department, the United States Department of State and the Foreign Exchange, the government allowed students to get visas. So they changed their mind. Initially, they said no student visas, and then they changed their ruling. And so we had two prior approvals of students that were able to get visas, but they didn't get them until August. So we wanted to honor them and allow them to be at our schools. Although, we don't know how great a program it's been because of COVID and
Right.
the problems with everything that's happened with COVID. It's
Yeah.
not a normal, school environment. But I did check.
That's globally, though.
Yes, but I checked with Chad Cox the other day. We were talking about something else because one of the students is at Battery Creek and said that this young man he's from Spain and even though it's, the way it's been, he's still enjoying his cultural experience here in the United States. So I'm happy about that.
So Wendy, the only real change in this is that last paragraph? Is that
just
correct?
because we were suspending it and then the State Department changed its rules. So we wanted to honor those applications.
Right, but it is suspended for the next school year. Is that correct?
It's suspended for the 2019-2020 school year. Now, we're going to have to see what happens with COVID if we can. It's only suspended for 1 year. So.
Okay, so.
It's
we're
for the
in 2021. So it's suspended for this year, except for those two that you just mentioned, right?
Yeah, and then we just said during the 2020-2021 academic year due to COVID.
Right, okay.
So because it's very remarkable that they were able to get the visa. So
right, okay. Did anybody have any thoughts or questions about this section?
I could only share that we have a remarkably large interest here at Beaufort for foreign exchange. So I'm glad that it's only suspended. The language we're utilizing is only for 2020, 2021.
Yes, I agree. And I'm hopeful that we will be able to open up again to more students at the next school year, 21-22.
That's right.
Yes.
Go ahead.
We just have to change the date again, correct?
I've got to change it to December. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Frankly, I think I should leave it on August because we let them in August, Otherwise, they came in August. What happened was, just so you all know, with everything with COVID, everything's just been put on hold.
But I thought the purpose of it is when you change the language, the dates to reflect.
Yeah, which
that.
I did it. We did this when we found out that we had 2 students who had been approved. So we actually did it in August, but I never got to bring anything.
Yeah, but
forward.
the adoption date, revised.
We wanted to let them in and honor them being here.
Yeah, understood.
Mary, I do have a question about this, and I'm just trying to reconcile this with some of our other ARs. If a student, a foreign exchange student joins us in their junior year, can that student become like valedictorian or salutatorian?
Technically not. Technically not.
Right, because they've transferred in so late, right?
Technically not, yes.
Right.
And, yeah.
What's the technicality, Mary?
It's actually, first our balance out, you have to have 3 consecutive semesters prior to the announcement of balance out, which is the close of the first semester of your senior year. But I believe in this language, in this AR, it stipulates that they cannot. So even if they come in as a junior, if I'm correct, Wendy, and leave me if I'm not, it says that they're not eligible to be balanced out.
Well, that's what I was looking for. So that's where I'm going with this. Where does it say that?
It's in a reg. We talked about that because I remember we had that come up.
It should be in here.
Right. No, Wendy, I know it's in a different reg.
Oh.
I just was wondering if it would be valuable to have it in the foreign exchange reg so that, let's say, a host parent wants to host a child and they go to this AR. I just thought it would be helpful to be.
I think that's a really good idea because we don't want to have a misunderstanding, and we want to also be respectful and fair to our students that have been in our school all those years. So,
we go into great detail about sports. I thought maybe it'd be appropriate to go in a little more detail about the academics, and
that's a very good idea.
It's a surprise to some of our students. If they graduate early or they change schools, it's a surprise to them that they cannot then be valedictorian or salutatorian.
They lose their status.
I know.
And it's up to the discretion. Well, our reg doesn't allow it.
Right.
It doesn't allow it. And I think it's in.
Is it in grading or?
I think it's in grading and graduation.
It's in grading policy, yes.
Yes. Thank you, Mel, Mr. Campbell.
But it doesn't address, I mean, I don't think it addressed the foreign student, but it doesn't address transfers. So it might be the same thing, can be interpreted as the same thing.
Yeah.
I thought it would just be easy to stick something
Put
in
the
there.
right thing in there, yes.
Yeah,
So,
Right.
I agree with you.
Idea. Undergraduate.
I thought it was on the RUGP.
It might be.
Because it might be there because I'm looking at graduation requirements. Not there.
And that can go in the context in Roman numeral 12.
Right.
okay.
Hold on. I
So-
gotta find it.
I got it figured. Are you looking for the language, Miss Wendy?
I'm
I did
not
try
sure.
to cut school today, Mrs. Friedrich, but I came in anyway.
Well, I would understand if you were unable to.
Yeah, it's been
make
a
it.
week. I've had my brother was diagnosed with COVID and his wife as well.
Oh.
So it has been a week.
Oh, I'm sorry. How are they doing?
They're both home. They're not hospitalized, so that's a good thing right now. But she's getting symptomatic, where my brother now is quarantined from his wife. Thank you.
Okay.
So can I ask a question while we're
Please do.
pausing here? Do our foreign exchange students actually get diplomas from our schools? I'm asking this because I've actually hosted a foreign exchange student. And our school district, when I was a host,
We didn't allow it.
They didn't allow it. They didn't get diplomas. I mean, they're a year. In fact, yeah. So do we give them high school diplomas?
And by the language in this administrative regulation, the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, because it looks like they are like looking at their giving. That's a lot of work to translate all that and to do that. I'm just curious.
Meaning the transcribing of the credits and transcripts.
Yeah.
But they have to do that anyway at point of registration to ensure that we're putting the children on the right track. So
Yes.
yeah, they have to. That has to be done anyway at the high school level.
Okay. So, shall I say, Dr. Stratos, that this one also is going to have some language added to it?
I think we need to. I thought Wendy was. We lost her.
Yeah, I think she looks like.
left her off.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, then we'll put this on hold.
Okay.
That's going to be recommendation from us, right? To provide that. We
I
need
think
spell
it
and
would-
vowel language.
I think it would be helpful to
Yeah, and I
to
thought I read it.
our principals that are making a decision that they make sure they inform the host parent of that as well.
Because it goes back to what Mr. Campbell was at. Well, you were asking, if I came in my junior year, because it is 3 consecutive semesters.
And if
And
I
you don't want
may,
to bump someone.
Yeah.
so the administrative regulation IS 43 that was revised November of 2019, grading assessments systems, Roman numeral 10, grade point average, D. The BCSD administration has determined the criteria for selection of honor graduates to include valedictorian, salutatorian, and top 10 is based on GPA as determined by the uniform grading policy. The cutoff date for determining the GPA is the 7th semester of high school and the third 9 weeks of the senior year. These students must be enrolled in a high school for 4 years and enrolled in the high school within the BCSD awarding the diploma for a minimum of 3 consecutive semesters prior to graduation. Students electing accelerated graduation in less than 4 years are not eligible to be valedictorian, salutatorian, or top 10. class rank for life scholarships is determined by the Commission on Higher Education at the conclusion of the spring semester of the senior year. There you go.
Okay, so there's another stipulation that says eligible foreign exchange students agree to be enrolled for not less than one semester and not more than 2 academic semesters. So
Well, that's what their visas, they let them,
So that would do it right there.
right, that would do it right there.
That would do it right there.
Yeah,
Done.
okay,
Check. Circle
Got it.
square.
So
okay.
do you all want me to make a reference to this or what?
No, I don't think foreign exchange students are even eligible because they're not
They're
here
not.
for
They don't need
semesters.
the 3 consecutive semesters.
Right,
Right.
but didn't you all say you thought we should put a line in here that foreign exchange students are not eligible pursuant to Admin Reg IS 4310C to be?
Yes.
Because so that, like you were saying, there's no misunderstanding, right?
Well,
Sure,
Yes.
I think that would be very helpful.
I'll do that under graduate. I'll put it under Roman numeral 7 graduation, if that's okay with you all.
Roman numeral 12. 12.
Oh,
please.
12, sorry.
Thank
See,
you.
we're so tired.
I know.
I don't know why.
I can't read.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Kathy and Mel, are you good with that? Okay.
I want to hear about Kathy's grandchild. No.
We want to see a picture of the baby.
Yeah.
If we stay on long enough, he has been released from the NICU. So hopefully they're
good.
coming home today.
Nice.
Congratulations. So
The 2-year-old just came in to shush me.
All right, SS3.
wait,
Okay, SS3. All right, so
is
this,
approved or
okay, so this one, assignment students to schools, which we had talked about last summer, now that, Dr. Bradley is here and with Dr. Stratus being here, the purpose for these revisions is to allow the superintendent to have a designee.
right?
And so we went into this document and put in the designee. Oh, I see the baby.
This is the 2-year-old who is
Oh, hi. Hi.
the big sister.
The big sister, you have a new brother? He's a baby. You could take good care of him, huh? So sweet.
Oh, so
Oh, that's
sweet.
sweet. Yeah.
Yes, he is.
It's phenomenal how a child can get each of us to get into gurgle.
It's true. It's
It really is.
That's very true.
Yeah. And it's such a unifying feeling, the beauty of children.
Yep.
That's why I see my little granddaughter in the mornings before I come here. She smiles and I smile.
With SS3, as Mrs. Cartledge had put forward, the idea of being able to have the opportunity of a designee to appoint and still provide information to the superintendent. We do recognize that we do update the superintendent.
Is that the only change to this, Mary?
That is really the only change. You'll see it. It's the item in red, and then the clarification of language up in the top.
And Dr. Stratus likes to be referred to as the Chief Instructional Officer instead of Chief Instructional Services Officer. So that's changed.
Yeah. Wow.
CIO. Got it.
EIEIO. I couldn't read. Sorry.
The CIO, so I'm Chief Informational Officer. Oh, well, that's what it used to be.
I had one question about this.
Yes, ma'am.
In section, I have to find it again.
A Roman numeral.
There's one section where it refers to no child left behind. And I'm wondering if that should be replaced.
ESSA.
Yes. Where did we miss that? Oh, I see it on number 12. No child. Yeah. To comply with ESSA.
But please note the Roman numerals are incorrect. Dissertation. Yeah. On page 2, we go from Roman numeral No, we're clean. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and number 12, under student choice plan procedures, it refers
that
to
should
no
be
child left
PSSA.
behind.
Yes, I see that there, but
Every,
formatting is not my strength, okay? So
Wendy, every Student Success Act.
every student shall succeed. But every ESSA, every
Student Success Act,
Okay.
ESSA.
every student success act.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you,
Every-
Ms. Gilbine.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Robine. We should have caught that.
Yeah.
And it is,
ESSA.
yeah, it's
Okay.
referenced in 16, in number 16, Roman numeral 16, but it just was left by mistake.
Yes, yep. Because we thought we got it. Thank you.
This is why we appreciate everybody's help.
Well, we try not to use the board members for proofing.
No, but I'm just saying everybody makes mistakes. And it's good
yeah.
to get input. So it should have
And
been
just-
caught there. So I'm sorry about that.
Wendy, just a real little thing.
Yeah.
On Roman numeral 9,
Uh-huh.
on the 4th line, it says one that is en route to or from parents' place of work. I think it's supposed to be en route, isn't it?
Yeah.
E-N?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mr. Campbell, anything on this one?
No, I don't even see what you just said.
Oh, it's just Roman numeral 9. It was just when
No.
you're talking about, let's see, it was the
Going
4th
down.
line. The 4th line, it says after the comma, one that is en route to or from the parents' place of work. I think it just, the wording is en route.
Yeah. ENRUROUT.
EN. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think that was really it on this one, on the changes. And you did update the citations, Mrs. Cartledge, as well.
Well, I put ESSA and then I don't have it in the back.
Yeah.
So I need to add that under federal law.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I need to add the site on Plyler v. Doe. I'll do that.
I thought,
Under U.S. Supreme Court.
yes, I
It
thought
needs
that
to be
was.
in there.
All right. So are we ready to go on to the last one? Drug alcohol use?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Wendy, this one's yours.
No, hold on just a second.
I know you went through in detail, just keeping it aligned.
No, I just,
I got the easy one.
no, you don't know. I just, yeah.
It's one of
I'm
those.
real happy about the students with disabilities AR. I'm real thankful about that one. Okay, so this one, drug and alcohol use. The reason for revising this administrative reg is because, as you all know, with our new student code of conduct, we are focusing on interventions, and we wanted to make reference in here that a student who's found to have committed a drug or alcohol offense should be referred to a drug and alcohol intervention program. And then we also added in here about principals, assistant principals, or principals designees. But I'm hoping that because we have early intervention with that MTSS process and those tiers, that we can help children before they get themselves in a situation where it is a serious problem. And I know that children experiment sometimes, but I mean, we want that.
Wendy, the reference would be to the collaborative programs that we had that were presented in Jerry's PE 1.9, or those are the collaborative programs that we work with in the district.
You're saying you want me to?
No, just as a point of
okay.
reference for us to know that.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Those are our referral agencies.
Okay. Kathy or Mel, do you have any comments on this one?
No.
Do you want those listed anywhere, Mary, like a ref?
No, the schools,
No.
the schools.
The schools,
have
no.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have that.
Okay, good.
No, it's school counselors, ma'am.
I'll
Thank
leave
you.
this one at November then, so. Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody's help. And
Oh, well, this is a lot of work and
No,
we
I-
appreciate.
I hope you'll have a really nice holiday. I also wanted to tell you, I'm very grateful that, that there's Dr. Rodriguez has approved for us to be able to hire a paralegal to help us because we have hundreds of administrative regs and like the communication, they haven't been done since like 2004 or something. So we have a lot of work to do. And now that we're going to be doing our new policy manual, just think, every single administrative regs have to be done because they won't be, these policies will be different now. And we're going to have our, our OEs and everything and GCs and all. We're going to have to, Robin and we'll be working on that crosswalk with her. So we connect all of these ARs to the board policies. So,
Yeah.
We've got a lot to do. So.
And
That's-
Wendy, I mean, I know it seems like a daunting task, but as we went through some of those policies and everything in 2008 and a few years thereafter, Derek Rhodes and his group, and they were doing coherent governance. So a lot of the PEs and the OEs are the same, and many of the policies. I mean, the language is there that they were operating under coherent governance, but it wasn't done with fidelity. So I'm hoping it's not as daunting a task as what you are just, thinking.
Really. All right.
No, I'm just, what I'm thinking is that I'm just so thankful we'll be getting some help because I'm good at typing, but like this formatting, I really make a lot of mistakes. I just need a little help.
Well, it's easy to do. So, all right. So as a recap.
Yes. Okay.
All right. IS 33 is going to be worked on, correct? The adult ed.
Yes. We need,
The
yeah.
foreign exchange student, IS 58 is good to go.
Okay.
The assignment of students to schools, SS3 is good to go.
Yep.
The discipline of students with disabilities is having a little bit of rework.
Yes.
Just a little bit, but I think enough that we've agreed upon that it's good to go. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we're going to send you the revisions that we talked about today.
And the drug alcohol is good to go. So really the only one is the adult ed.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
and I really like the idea of having Dr. Morrell give us feedback. I like it.
Yeah, that was a
Thank
very
you.
good suggestion.
Very good suggestion.
So
Okay.
is our a process question? So then with the ARs, we just bring them to the full board so that they are aware of the changes that have been made.
Right. And then after they go to the full board, then we prepare a PDF and a Word. The
Okay.
PDF is posted on the microscribe site on the board website. And then we distribute the revised administrative regulations to all the staff. So.
But we don't have to approve them,
No,
make a
you
motion
don't.
to approve them
No.
or accept
Right,
them.
no, that's right.
Now that's right. They're just
Notification.
communication. Yeah.
Right.
To inform you of the change. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Well, I know that we have a meeting next Wednesday
On the 16th.
on the 16th. So
Yes.
So
I thank everybody for their hard work and their long hours. And anything else before that, Mary?
So for the 16th, I believe we're going to bring forward the correction with regard to the format that was put forward by the board last night
For 1.9?
for 1.9. Okay, and I created the format and I actually put it into an Excel, but it does give the looking at the state requirements. Okay, it's going to give you the difference. Okay, and actually, when you start doing the math, we fund over 6,178 seats more than what the state lends for allocation. I spoke with Jerry Henderson earlier, also regarding CDFs and the language of the law. The
Yeah.
language of the law for CDF stipulates it may either be individual with a bachelor's degree with the CDF certification and or a counselor with the CDF certification will meet the letter of the law.
Right. And so that's why, Mary, many years ago, we had CDFs, and it was probably a cost-cutting venture.
Yes.
And any school that had a guidance counselor with the certification, it became another duty of the guidance counselors.
It did become another duty, and the state funding allows for it. So I went in detail of reading. I mean, it's a type of reading that's not fun, but it's great reading, if that makes sense.
Right.
So
you'll bring some of this forward next week?
I wanted to bring that forward, and I wanted to just make mention of just two quick slide items. One, with the LBA's committee members, I want us to recognize that we have not had documentation of LBA syllabi and standards up until 3 years ago.
Really?
Yes. So I greatly appreciate, I know it was abundance of time the other evening, but I needed to have us as a board to say to me, Mary, clean this.
Yeah.
Because these are items that had been approved in the past. I don't want us to operate with courses that we really do not have the documentation to maintain consistency.
Agreed.
I did not want to, so I wanted to share that, please, with a big thank you to everyone. I know it was time, but there was a method to that having to go to discussion to this level. It's important. I don't have the right to take away what you approve.
Right.
The last item is your survey review last night. I gave Mr. Campbell, Mel, I know it was chicken scratch maybe too, and it was a long evening, but when you're looking at a survey, your codification and making categories is critical in order to lend for validity. And all right, so identify your categories, try to keep at least 7 to 10 questions within that category so you could have validity of your response. So I just wanted to give that little bit of advice. I didn't want to push. I was dying to that's like the stuff I love. But I wanted to share that. So I only gave you some ideas last night. I don't mean to overstep my boundaries. So
No.
I took them and I like I said, I codified it into 4 categories that relates to the board goals and coherent governance.
And drop it into Excel. And then when you have your open-ended qualitative questions, you look for the same type of trends in your codification.
That's where we're going with it.
Yep. And then you do your cross tabulation and you're in.
Yeah. Tricia, did you see that I sent you?
I have not had that chance yet, Mel.
Mr. Campbell, you did homework?
Oh yeah, I couldn't sleep last night. So getting home and getting to bed at 2:30. I thought about all of that all night for an hour and a half or so. So I got up early.
I'm sorry I put your brain there, but
yeah.
I was so impressed in where you're going as a board.
Yeah. I was trying to address the issues, and I looked back at the essential question of what was effective board according to the board members who sent in answers, and I kind of addressed it accordingly.
Good.
So Tricia, look at it and then give me some feedback by our meeting time tomorrow.
I sure will. I do have an ACE board meeting this afternoon, so I'm going to have to sign off pretty soon.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Right. I just it's easy to look at what my vision was.
Oh, and Mel, I you portrayed a lot of that vision when we were going through the instrument, that I knew that's where you were driving it to. So
right, because you do remember our first conversation on whether we should categorize it or not.
Right, I do very well.
Right. You chose the Myers-Briggs approach, where everything's scattered.
I don't know the technology or the technical term. But yeah, I think, it's tested to be much more effective when you want to get a transparent view.
Right. And that's what I just wanted to assure, that there were those categories and that you knew where each of the statements belonged. So that,
Right.
that to use the feedback. Yeah.
Okay, so we did some great work today. You guys have done some great work leading up to today. We greatly appreciate it because every time we do any of these ARs, I truly believe that the vision of the district where we're going is getting incorporated into these ARs. And so that's critical. That's critical. And I do appreciate everybody's hard work and time and effort.
Thank you. And I'll get these ready for January. And then with these, I'll just have them in the draft form so the board can see what we changed. Is that okay then? Does that work?
Yeah, you know what, Wendy, my thought is that, yeah, that's fine. So the board can see what we changed, but I also want them to see a final copy because, it's gone through committee and you're just bringing forward the major changes. So I don't think we need to open ourselves up to a lot of discussion about past stuff. I think the final product. You guys agree?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. The idea is that we've got the same language in mind when we address the ARs, which should be supporting our OEs.
Right.
Yeah. So if we agree on the language, and that's this stuff coming strictly from Frank in our mind, and if he's interpreting it the way we intend it to be interpreted from a policy standpoint, then we go with it. But there are little things that we see differently, and that's what we do as a committee. But the board gets a final look at it. So, they don't have to help correct it.
No.
And we do it because we want the board to have a final look that's, kind of efficient.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn until further notice.
Thank you. Have a beautiful evening.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Enjoy the baby.
Thank
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Enjoy the
everybody,
baby
for
too.
your input.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.